The moon hung low in the ink-black sky, casting feeble rays over the desolate landscape. James gripped the steering wheel of his worn-out sedan, its tires humming on the cracked asphalt of the abandoned highway. The world outside his car seemed frozen in time, a forgotten realm where shadows clung to the skeletal remains of trees lining the roadside. James had always been a man of reason, scoffing at the tales of ghosts and specters whispered around campfires. But as he drove down that desolate stretch of road, an unease settled in his chest, a nagging suspicion that he was not alone on that forsaken journey. The air hung heavy with an unnatural stillness, broken only by the distant moan of the wind. The landscape, once filled with the vibrant hues of life, now seemed drained of all color, leaving only shades of gray and black. James glanced at the dashboard clock. Its red digits glowed eerily, displaying a time that seemed to have no correlation with the real world. The radio, normally a reliable companion on long drives, crackled with static, the disjointed whispers and distant screams sending shivers down James's spine. He fumbled with the dials, desperate for a connection to the familiar voices of the living. But the airwaves remained silent, as if the world beyond the abandoned highway had vanished into a void. The road stretched out endlessly before him, its twists and turns unpredictable, as if it had a mind of its own. Signs pointing to long-forgotten towns loomed on the side of the road, their paint peeling and letters fading into obscurity. James couldn't shake the feeling that the highway itself was leading him somewhere, a destination unknown and unwelcome. As James navigated through the night, he caught glimpses of flickering lights in his rearview mirror. Shadows danced in the periphery of his vision, phantoms that vanished the moment he turned to face them. His rational mind tried to dismiss these apparitions as tricks of the mind, the product of fatigue and isolation. Yet a growing sense of dread told him otherwise. The road began to narrow, the once wide lanes constricting like the throat of some unseen predator. The trees on either side of the highway pressed closer, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. James felt a chill run down his spine as the atmosphere thickened with an otherworldly presence. A dilapidated sign emerged from the darkness, its rusted metal screeching against an invisible force as James approached. The letters, barely legible, spelled out the name of a town long forgotten, Hollow Creek. James hesitated but pressed on, the road offering no alternative paths, as if mocking his futile attempt to escape. The sedan's headlights illuminated the remains of Hollow Creek as James entered the ghost town. Abandoned buildings, their windows shattered and doors hanging from rusty hinges, stood as silent witnesses to a past lost to time. The wind whispered through the empty streets, carrying with it the haunting echoes of laughter and footsteps that would never return. James spotted an old gas station, its neon sign flickering like a dying heartbeat. He pulled over, the gravel crunching beneath the tires, and stared at the desolation that surrounded him. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the distant howl of a solitary wolf, its mournful cry echoing through the ghost town. As he explored the abandoned gas station, James found an old newspaper, its yellowed pages chronicling a tragedy that had befallen Hollow Creek decades ago. The townspeople had vanished without a trace, leaving behind empty homes and unanswered questions. James shivered as he read about strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena that plagued the town in the days leading up to its demise. His eyes widened as he reached the end of the article, a grainy photograph capturing a group of townsfolk gathered around an ancient well. The image was blurry, but the fear etched on their faces was unmistakable. James felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach as he realized he was standing only a few yards away from the well depicted in the photograph. Compelled by an inexplicable force, James approached the well, its stone walls weathered by time and neglect. The air around it seemed to vibrate with an energy that sent shivers down his spine. He peered into the abyss below, the darkness swallowing the feeble light of his flashlight. As James stared into the well, a whispering voice echoed through the hollow space. Unintelligible words slithered into his ears. He realized that he had crossed a threshold into a realm beyond the comprehension of the living. The ghostly figure beckoned him with a skeletal hand, inviting him to join the silent congregation of the vanished townsfolk. As the figure drew closer, James felt an invisible force pulling him toward the well. The whispers grew louder, the voices of the forgotten demanding retribution for disturbing their eternal slumber. With every step, the world around him blurred, the boundary between the living and the spectral realm dissolving like mist. In his final moments of consciousness, James glimpsed the moon hanging low in the ink-black sky, casting feeble rays over the desolate landscape. The sedan stood silent and abandoned, a relic on the forsaken highway, as if frozen in time. The shadows of Hollow Creek whispered their secrets to the wind, and the well swallowed the echoes of a man who dared to venture into the heart of the haunted unknown.